The blue marble of Earth hung in the blackness of space, quiet and peaceful. On its surface, in cities and towns, people lived their normal lives. They went to work, they went to school, they loved their families. They looked up at the stars with wonder, but they were alone, or so they thought. That changed in an instant. A sound tore through the air, but it was not a sound that came from any speaker on Earth. It was a sound that appeared directly inside every human mind. It was a deep musical tone, like a note from a giant crystal bell. It was beautiful, but it was also frightening. It was followed by a voice, clear and sharp, that spoke in every language at once. People of Earth, we are the galactic consensus. All over the planet, everything stopped. Cars screeched to a halt in the middle of streets. Office workers looked up from their computers. Chefs in restaurants stopped cooking. Everyone heard the voice in their head. A new species has reached the void between stars. This is a significant moment. But you are young. You are chaotic. You are dangerous to yourselves and to the great peace of the galaxy. In the main control room for Earth's defense, a man named Minsu stood frozen. He was the captain of the United Earth ship Resolve, and he was visiting Earth for meetings. Now he watched the main screen, his body tense. He was a calm man, a diplomat. He believed in talking first, but this voice did not sound like it wanted to talk. The galaxy has an order, the voice continued. For 10,000 years, the consensus has maintained this order. All new species must join this order. They must prove their understanding. They must show their respect. An image formed in everyone's mind. It was a vast, shimmering platform in space. At one end was a throne made of light and impossible geometry. And before the throne, many strange and alien figures were kneeling, their heads bowed low. This is the rite of integration, the voice said. You will send your leaders. They will come to the coordinates we provide. They will kneel before the celestial throne. They will accept the guidance and authority of the galactic consensus for a period of 1,000 years. This is the way. This is the only way. The voice paused, letting the meaning sink in. All across Earth, the silence was broken by sounds of confusion, fear, and anger. In return, you will be protected. You will be taught. You will be given a place in the great story of the galaxy. Refuse, and you will be seen as a threat to galactic peace, a threat that must be removed. You have 3 of your days to decide. And just like that, the voice was gone. The pressure in every mind vanished. The strange music faded. The world was quiet again, but it was a different world. Chaos erupted. In the control room, the screens lit up with panic. Reports flooded in from every country. Minsu took a deep breath. His job was to stay calm. He turned to a young woman with sharp, intelligent eyes staring at a data screen. Her name was June. She was the head engineer for the Resolve, a genius with technology. June, what can you tell me? Minsu asked, his voice low and steady. June did not look up from her screen. Her fingers flew across the surface. It's real, Captain. The signal didn't come from any satellite or drone. It originated from a point just outside our solar system. The energy required to broadcast a telepathic message to 7 billion people, it's beyond anything we can imagine. It's like a god talking. At that moment, the door to the control room slid open. A man in a military uniform walked in. His steps were heavy and sure. His face was like stone. This was General Daehyun. He was in charge of Earth's combined military forces. He was not a man who believed in talking for long. Captain, Daehyun said, his voice a low rumble. It seems our quiet little neighborhood just got some new neighbors, and they have terrible manners. What are your thoughts, General? Minsu asked. My thoughts? Daehyun said, a hard look in his eyes. They just told the entire human race to get on its knees. They didn't ask. They didn't invite us. They gave an order. This isn't a first contact. This is an ultimatum. On the other side of the planet, in a city called Seoul, the leaders of the world were gathering through video screens. They were all talking at once. Some were terrified. We cannot fight them, one leader said, his face pale. Did you not hear that voice? That power? If we say no, they will destroy us. We must bow. It is the only way to survive. Another leader slammed her hand on her desk. Survive? To be slaves for 1,000 years? To kneel and accept that we are inferior? That is not survival. That is a slow death for the human spirit. My people will never accept this. The arguments went back and forth for hours. Some said to be practical, to kneel now and wait for a chance to be free later. Others said that to kneel was to give up their souls. Minsu listened to the arguments. He understood both sides. Fear was a powerful feeling. So was pride. While the leaders argued, June was working. She had managed to record a tiny piece of the alien signal. It was not the voice, but the energy around it. She studied it. "Captain," she said, calling Minsu over. "Look at this." She showed him a graph on her screen. It showed waves of energy. "This is the shield signature of the ship that sent the message. I can see it now on our long-range scanners. It's a single ship, but its energy output is greater than our entire planetary power grid." Minsu looked at the graph. It meant one thing. "So if we fight—" June finished his sentence, her voice grim. "If we fight, we lose. Our strongest weapons would be like throwing pebbles at a fortress. A direct conflict is not a battle. It is a suicide run." General Daehyun had heard enough. He stood up in the control room, his presence commanding attention. He sent his message to the world leaders. "Listen to me," he said, his voice hard. "They do not want members. They want servants. They want obedience. They see our history, our wars, our passion, and they call it chaos. They see it as a sickness to be controlled. If we bow today, we are telling them that they are right. We are accepting that our children, and our children's children, will live on their knees. There will be no rebellion in 1,000 years. There will only be the memory of the day we gave up." His words hung in the air. The fear in the room was now mixed with a burning shame. Minsu thought of his own daughter safe at home. He thought of her future. Would she look back at this day and be proud of her father? Or would she live a long, safe, and meaningless life as a subject of a distant throne? The debate raged for 2 days. The world watched and waited. People protested in the streets holding signs that said, "Don't bow," and "We are not slaves." Others hid in their homes praying for the leaders to choose peace no matter the cost. Finally, it was time to decide. The World Council took a vote. It was the most important vote in human history. One by one, the leaders cast their ballots. The result was close. Very close, but the decision was made. On the 3rd day, a single ship left Earth. It was a small diplomatic vessel. It flew to the edge of the solar system, to the coordinates the voice had provided. The alien ship was there. It was beautiful, made of something that looked like shifting crystal and light. It was massive and silent. A light emerged from the alien ship and scanned the human vessel. A communication channel opened. The same voice from 3 days ago spoke, this time only to the pilots of the human ship. "You have come to perform the rite," the voice said. It was a statement, not a question. The lead pilot, a brave woman named Sojin, took a deep breath. She had been given a message to deliver. She pressed the button to transmit. The message was short. It was simple. It was formal. It was also the most defiant words humanity had ever spoken. "To the Galactic Consensus," Sojin said, her voice clear and steady. "Humanity thanks you for your offer. However, we decline." She paused, thinking of Earth, of everyone she loved. "We do not bow." For a moment, there was only silence from the alien ship. The beautiful crystalline vessel hung in the void, unmoving. Then the communication channel closed without a single word in response. The human ship turned and began its journey home. The pilots knew they had not bought peace. They had declared war. Back on Earth, Captain Minsu watched the screen as the message was sent. He felt a cold knot in his stomach. He was afraid, but he also felt a strange, fierce pride. General Daehyun stood next to him, a grim smile on his face. "Now," the general said softly, "the real work begins." In her lab, June looked at her screens. The alien ship was powering up its engines. Its energy signature was changing, growing brighter, sharper. It was no longer just a messenger. It was now a weapon. She knew what was coming. They all did. Humanity had chosen to stand. Now they would have to find a way to survive the storm. The silence did not last. The beautiful crystal ship of the Galactic Consensus, which had hung so peacefully in the void, began to change. Its smooth surfaces shifted. Parts of it moved and realigned, forming sharp, weapon-like structures. A soft glow started to pulse from its core, growing brighter with each beat. It was no longer a messenger. It was a hunter. On the bridge of the United Earth ship Resolve, Captain Minsu watched the data on his screen. His ship was the best humanity had, a proud vessel of steel and determination. But as he looked at the energy readings from the alien ship, his heart felt heavy. It was like comparing a campfire to the sun. "All ships form defensive line Delta," Minsu said, his voice calm but firm over the comms. "Remember, this is a show of force. We are not firing first. We are showing them we will not run." Around the Resolve, other human ships moved into position. They were a mix of shapes and sizes from many different nations, but now they were one fleet, the fleet of humanity. They faced the single, shimmering alien vessel. General Daehyun's voice came through from Earth Command. "Hold the line, Captain. Let them make the first move. Let the galaxy see who the aggressor is." On the main screen, a light flashed from the alien ship. A beam of pure energy, white and gold, lanced out. It was not aimed at the Resolve. It was aimed at a smaller ship to its left, the Beijing. The beam touched the Beijing's shields. The shields flashed for a millionth of a second and then vanished. The beam cut straight through the ship's hull, slicing it into two clean pieces. There was no explosion, just a silent, terrible breaking. The two halves of the ship drifted apart, dark and dead. Minsu felt the air leave his lungs. It had been so easy for them. So effortless. All ships open fire. He commanded, his voice tight. A storm of projectiles and lasers flew from the human fleet. Missiles streaked across the darkness. They raced toward the beautiful crystal ship. They hit its shimmering surface and they did nothing. The missiles detonated in brilliant flowers of fire and light. The lasers scattered harmlessly. When the light faded, the alien ship was untouched. Not a single scratch marked its perfect surface. The alien ship fired again. Another beam. Another human ship was cut in half. Then another beam. And another. It was like a gardener calmly trimming weeds. Evasive maneuvers, Minsu shouted. The Resolve jerked to the side as a beam passed terrifyingly close. Alarms blared across the bridge. The ship shook from the near miss. "They're picking us apart," Minsu said, mostly to himself. "We can't hurt them." In the engineering room, June was strapped into her chair, her hands flying across her console. Her screen was a waterfall of numbers and graphs. She was analyzing the alien weapon, the beam that was destroying their fleet with such ease. "Captain," she said, her voice urgent over the comm. "Their weapon? It's a phased plasma stream. It's technology we've only theorized. It ignores our shields. Our armor might as well be paper. Can we stop it? Can we block it?" Minsu asked, steering the ship through another desperate dodge. "No," June said, her voice flat. "Not with what we have, but I'm seeing something else." Her eyes were fixed on a secondary data stream. It was the energy signature of the alien ship's shield, the thing that made it invulnerable to their attacks. "Just before they fire their main weapon," she said, talking fast, "there's a tiny, tiny shift in their shield frequency. It's like a heartbeat. For a fraction of a second, it becomes unstable. It's a vulnerability." Minsu felt a spark of hope. "A weak point? Can we target it?" "It's not a physical weak point," June explained, frustration in her voice. "We can't shoot it. It's a data vulnerability. Their systems are so advanced, they're partly alive. They use a kind of organic computer that links directly to the pilots' minds. That's how they react so fast. They're not just predicting our moves, they are knowing our moves before we make them." General Daehyun's voice cut in, harsh and clear. "Explain that, engineer." June took a sharp breath as the ship shook again. "They see the battle like a game of chess where they can see 10 moves ahead. They know every standard tactic, every logical attack pattern we have. Our moves are simple math to them. That's why they can't be hit. They are always already somewhere else." Another blast hit near the Resolve. The lights on the bridge flickered. A console behind Minsu sparked and went dark. They were losing. Fast. "So we can't fight them," Daehyun said, his voice like grinding stones. "Their tech is better. Their minds are faster. They see everything we're going to do." "Yes, General," June said, her shoulders slumping. "Then we don't fight them," Daehyun said. There was a pause on the comm. Minsu frowned. "General? What are you saying?" "We don't fight them the way they expect," Daehyun repeated. "If they can predict a logical enemy, then we must be an illogical enemy. If they see 10 moves ahead, we make moves that have no purpose. We don't play their game. We change the game." On Minsu's screen, he saw 2 more friendly signals vanish. The human fleet was being erased. He knew they had only minutes left. "Fall back," he ordered. "All ships, retreat to Mars orbit! Full retreat!" It was not a graceful withdrawal. It was a scramble, a desperate flight. The alien ship did not chase them. It simply stopped firing and hung in space as if it had finished its work. It had made its point. The message was clear. Resistance is useless. The mood on the Resolve was dark. They had survived, but they had witnessed a massacre. Minsu sat in his chair, feeling the weight of all the lives lost. Later, in a secure meeting room, Minsu, Jun, and a hologram of General Daehyun met. "Project Chimera," Daehyun said without any introduction. "It's our best-kept secret." "Maybe our only hope. What is it?" Minsu asked. "It's not a new gun or a new shield," Daehyun said. "It's a new way of thinking. For years, we've been developing AI programs for information warfare, not to break systems but to confuse them, to overload them with nonsense." He brought up a file on the screen. It showed complex code and strange, swirling patterns. "While June works on turning that shield frequency into a disruptive pulse, we will hit them with this. We will fill their advanced mind-linked computers with garbage. We will broadcast noise. We will make our ships move in patterns that make no tactical sense. We will be unpredictable. We will be chaotic." June's eyes lit up. She understood. "Their system seeks order. It finds the most logical path and takes it. If we remove logic from the equation, then their greatest strength becomes a weakness." Minsu finished, the plan finally clicking in his mind. "They will be looking for a soldier and find a dancing fool. They won't know what to predict." "Exactly," Daehyun said. "We cannot outfight them, so we will outthink them by not thinking like them at all. We will use the human condition against them. Our chaos, our art, our spirit. These are things their cold logic cannot compute." The task was immense. June and her team worked without rest. They had to create a device that could emit a special energy pulse based on the heartbeat she had discovered. It wouldn't destroy the alien shield, but it would make it itch. It would cause a constant, irritating static in their perfect system. At the same time, all across Earth, programmers and engineers worked on Project Chimera. They taught the AI to generate illogical flight paths. They fed it thousands of years of human culture: music, poetry, abstract art, old video games. They taught it to be random, creative, and utterly confusing. A few days later, the alien ship began to move again. It was coming toward Mars, toward what was left of the human fleet. The Resolve and a handful of other ships moved to meet it. This time they were different. They did not form a neat battle line. "Activate Project Chimera," Minsu said. The effect was immediate. The human ships began to move in strange, swirling dances. They looped and spun for no reason. They flew in figure eights around each other. At the same time, their broadcasters started sending a wild mix of signals: a classical music symphony, a reading of an old poem, the sound of a baby laughing, and pure mathematical noise. The alien ship fired its beam. It missed. It fired again. It missed again. The beams that had once been so precise now went wild, slicing harmlessly through empty space. On the bridge of the Resolve, June watched her screen. "It's working." Their targeting systems are confused. They can't get a lock. "They don't know what we're going to do next because we don't know what we're going to do next." Minsu allowed himself a small smile. "Now, June, try your pulse." June pressed a button. A low hum filled the ship. An invisible wave of energy shot out from the Resolve, hitting the alien ship. On the view screen, they saw it. The beautiful crystal ship seemed to shudder. Its smooth glow flickered just for a moment. It was like a person shaking their head to clear it. The alien ship stopped firing completely. It hung in space as if stunned. They had not heard it. They had not scratched it. But for the first time, they had confused it. They had annoyed it. They had made it pause. The human ships, still dancing their crazy dance, retreated to safety. They had not won a battle, but they had survived one. They had found a crack in the armor of a god. As the Resolve flew back toward Earth, Minsu looked at the stars. The galaxy was vast and full of powerful enemies, but humanity was small and stubborn and very, very creative. They had just shown the galactic consensus that they were not an easy problem to solve. They were a puzzle that fought back. The news traveled across the stars not as a shout, but as a whisper. It moved through hidden channels and secret networks. On 1,000 worlds that had long ago bowed to the celestial throne, the whisper was heard. The humans had not been destroyed. They had fought the Cathar, the proud enforcers of the consensus, and they had lived. On a dusty mining world called Xerxes, a Tolk foreman named Graal heard the whisper. The Tolk were a strong reptilian people. They had bowed to the consensus 1,000 years ago. Since then, they had been the builders, the miners, the laborers. They were good at following orders. Graal was in a deep mine, supervising the extraction of a rare crystal used in Cathar ship cores. His communicator, a small flat device, buzzed. It was a message from a friend on another world. The message was just a few lines of text and a short, grainy video. Growl played the video. He saw the beautiful, terrifying shape of a Cathar warship. He saw the clumsy human ships dancing around it like flies. He saw the Cathar's powerful beams firing and missing again and again. He saw the Cathar ship shudder, its perfect light flickering. The video ended. Growl stood very still in the dark mine. The other Tolk workers watched him, their tools silent in their hands. For 1,000 years, the Cathar had been perfect. They were order. They were power. They were untouchable. But in that video, they had been made to look foolish. They had been confused by the chaotic humans. Growl looked down at the crystal in his rough hand. This very crystal would power a ship meant to keep his people enslaved. He thought about the humans who had simply said, "We do not bow." A feeling he had never known stirred in his chest. It was hope. He turned to his crew. "The masters are not infallible," he rumbled, his voice echoing in the cavern. "The humans show us this." He did not say anything more. He did not need to. That night, the machinery in his mind began to break down in small, hard-to-find ways. Production slowed. In the gas clouds of a giant planet, the Alara lived. They were beings of energy and light, the best navigators in the galaxy. They had also bowed long ago. They charted the paths for the Cathar fleets. An Alara named Lear, who existed as a shimmering pattern of blue light, received the same whisper. She saw the same video. To her, the humans' movements were not chaos. They were a new kind of music, a song of freedom. The next time she was asked to plot a course for a Cathar ship heading to Earth, she made a tiny, almost invisible error. She shifted a gravitational calculation by a decimal point. It would not make the ship crash. It would only make it arrive a few hours late, its crew confused and slightly off course. It was a small act, but for the Alara, it was a revolution. Back on Earth, the mood had shifted from despair to grim determination. The victory was small, but it was a victory. Captain Minsu stood in a large underground command center. Screens covered the walls, showing data from all over the galaxy. The whispers were coming in. "General," Minsu said to Daehyun, "it's working. The Tolk are slowing their production. The Alara are sending us secret messages of support. We are not alone anymore." Daehyun nodded, his stone face showing a hint of satisfaction. "A symbol is a powerful weapon. We have become a symbol. But a symbol can be destroyed. The Cathar will not take this lightly. They will come back, and they will come back with more than one ship." He was right. The Cathar were not stupid. They were arrogant, but they were not stupid. Their first defeat was an embarrassment. They analyzed the human tactic. They saw the chaos, the nonsense, the disruptive pulse. They began to adapt. They created new filters for their prediction systems, designed to ignore random noise and find the real threat. A month later, a new Cathar fleet arrived at the edge of the solar system. This time there were 3 ships. They were bigger. Their crystals shone with a colder, sharper light. The human fleet, now trained in the ways of chaos, went out to meet them. The dance began again. The ships swirled and looped. The airwaves filled with static and songs. But this time it was different. The Cathar ships did not fire wildly. They waited. Their new filters were working. They sifted through the chaos looking for patterns. They began to ignore the random movements and target the ship's engines, their power cores, the things that could not move randomly without the ship destroying itself. A human ship. The Jakarta was caught in a crossfire of 2 precise beams. Its dance was not fast enough. It was vaporized. On the bridge of the Resolve, Minsu saw it happen. "They're learning!" he shouted. "Chimera is losing its effect." Jion worked frantically at her station. "They've upgraded their systems, Captain. The pulse is still causing them discomfort, but it's like a buzzing in their ears. They are learning to fight through it." Another human ship was hit. Then another. The new strategy was failing. The Cathar were winning through sheer cold logic. "It's not enough," Minsu said, a feeling of dread returning. "We need more than chaos. We need a different kind of chaos." Down on Earth, in the city of Seoul, a young woman named Yuna was watching the battle on a public screen. She was not a soldier or an engineer. She was an artist. She painted giant murals on buildings. She saw the human ships dying and her heart broke. She saw the cold, perfect Cathar ships and she felt anger. She had an idea. It was a crazy idea. She ran to her studio. She called her friends, other artists, musicians, writers. They are beating our logic with their logic, she said. We must fight with what they cannot understand. We must fight with our art. Meanwhile, in the command center, General Daehyun was growing desperate. We need a new tactic now. An aide rushed up to him. General, we are getting a request from a civilian. A large group of them. They want to link into our broadcast system for Project Chimera. Daehyun was about to say no. This was a military operation. Then he stopped. What was their war if not a fight for the human spirit? Patch them through, he said. What do we have to lose? In space, the battle was turning into a disaster. The Resolve was taking fire. Shields were failing, Captain, June said, her voice shaking. We are receiving a new data stream from Earth. It's not from the military. What is it? Min-Soo asked, bracing for another impact. I don't know. It's a massive file. Paintings, symphonies, poetry. It's being fed into Project Chimera. On the main screen, the view of the Cathar ships flickered. Then something strange happened. The Cathar ship in the center suddenly changed color. Its cool blue light shifted to a warm, vibrant orange. Then it flickered through a rainbow of colors, red, green, purple. A new sound came over the human comms. It was not static. It was a powerful, emotional piece of music full of passion and sadness and joy. It was a human symphony. The Cathar ships stopped firing. They seemed to wobble in space. One of them started to spin slowly, its movements becoming clumsy and uncoordinated. What is happening? Min-Soo asked, stunned. June was laughing, a sound of pure relief and wonder. It's the art. Captain, their systems are trying to process it. They are trying to find the tactical meaning in a painting. They are trying to understand the mathematical formula for sadness in a song. It's too much for them. It's overloading their filters. The artists of Earth had joined the fight. They were flooding the Cathar ships with the one thing a purely logical mind could not handle. Raw, unfiltered human emotion and creativity. The Cathar fleet, confused and disoriented, began to retreat. They pulled back, their beautiful lights flickering erratically. They had come prepared for chaos, but they had not been prepared for a soul. The human fleet did not chase them. They were as surprised as the enemy. As the Cathar ships jumped away into faster-than-light travel, a final image was broadcast from the lead ship. It was not a weapon signature or a threat. It was a single, complex, and beautiful geometric pattern. It looked almost like a question. Min-Soo looked at the pattern on his screen. He did not understand it, but he felt that it was important. We didn't beat them with weapons, he said softly. We beat them with a song. On Xerxes, Growl the Tolk saw the news of the second human victory. This time he did not just slow down production. He walked over to the main control console for the mine and entered a code. A loud grinding sound echoed through the cavern, followed by a deep silence. The mine was shut down. He looked at his people. The humans do not bow, he said. And neither will we. The whisper was becoming a voice. The voice was becoming a roar. The galaxy was beginning to wake up. The silence after the battle was heavier than the noise that had come before. On the bridge of the Resolve, the crew was quiet. They had won, but they knew it was not a true victory. It was a stay of execution. The Cathar had retreated, but they would be back. And next time, they would be ready for human art as well as human chaos. Captain Min-Soo stared at the main screen. It showed the last image the Cathar had sent. A complex, shimmering pattern of light and geometry. It was beautiful, but it felt cold. It was a puzzle. June, any idea what this is? Min-Soo asked, his voice tired. June was already studying it. It's not a weapon schematic. It's not a language we know. It looks like a key. Or a lock, I don't know. It's a message, but we don't have the code book to read it. General Daehyun's face appeared on the comm screen. He looked as tired as Min-Soo felt. They are adapting, Captain. Our tricks will only work for so long. We need a real plan. A real weapon. What weapon can we build that they cannot break? Min-Soo asked. We cannot match their technology in 1,000 years. Then we do not try, Daehyun said. We use the weapon we have. The one they cannot understand. We use our allies. The whispers from the galaxy had grown louder. The Tolk were not just sabotaging mines anymore. On some worlds, they were openly refusing to work. The Alara were sending detailed maps of Cathar space, showing their military bases and supply routes. Other species, Ones humanity did not even have names for were sending messages of support. They were all watching the humans, Minsu understood. We are not just fighting for Earth anymore. No, Daehyun said. We are fighting for every world that ever bowed its head. We have become the spark. We must now become the flame. A plan was formed. It was a desperate plan. It was called Operation Starlight. The idea was not to defeat the Cathar fleet. The idea was to show the galaxy that the Cathar could be beaten. To turn the spark of rebellion into a fire. The target was a Cathar shipyard. It was a place where they built their warships. It was heavily guarded. Attacking it was suicide. But if they could even damage it, the message would be heard on 1,000 worlds. The masters are vulnerable. The human fleet was small. It was just the Resolve and a few other ships that had survived the battles. They needed help. Minsu sent a message out on the secret channels. He asked for help. He did not demand it. He simply stated the plan and the time. He did not know if anyone would come. The day of the attack arrived. The human fleet gathered at the edge of the solar system. They prepared to jump to the coordinates of the shipyard. The mood was grim. Everyone knew the odds were against them. All ships report status, Minsu said. One by one, the ships checked in. They were ready. It was time to go. Just as Minsu was about to give the order to jump, June looked up from her screen, her eyes wide. Captain, I'm reading new signatures. A lot of them. On the main screen, space began to ripple. One ship appeared. It was blocky and strong, made of heavy metal. It was a Tolk ship. Then another appeared. And another. Soon a dozen Tolk ships were there. Their rough, practical shapes a stark contrast to the beautiful Cathar crystals. Then space rippled again. Ships of light and energy appeared. They were Ilara navigator vessels. They did not have weapons, but they could guide the others with perfect precision. More ships came. Strange ships from species humanity had never seen. Some were organic, like giant seeds. Others were pure energy. They were all different, but they had one thing in common. They had all answered the call. A communication came through. It was from the lead Tolk ship. The face on the screen was Grail. Human ships, Grail's rough voice said. The Tolk stand with you. We have bowed for too long. Then an Ilara, a shimmering pattern of light, spoke. The Ilara stand with you. We will guide your way. Minsu felt a lump in his throat. They were not alone. Thank you, he said, his voice thick with emotion. All ships move out. The combined fleet jumped into faster-than-light travel. When they arrived at the shipyard, it was a breathtaking sight. It was a giant web of crystal and light, with half-built Cathar warships floating inside like unborn gods. A fleet of Cathar defenders was waiting for them. The battle began. It was not like the dances before. This was a real battle. The Tolk ships were slow but tough. They flew right at the Cathar ships, firing their powerful but simple cannons. They took hit after hit, but they did not stop. The human ships used their chaos. They weaved between the Tolk ships, confusing the Cathar targeting systems. The Ilara ships darted through the battle, sending real-time data to everyone, helping them avoid enemy fire. It was working. The Cathar were being pushed back. They were not used to being fought like this. They were not used to an enemy that did not fight with perfect logic. Minsu saw an opening, a path to the main shipyard structure. The Resolve will make a run for the core. Cover us! The Resolve shot forward. Tolk ships moved to protect them, taking fire that was meant for the human ship. The Cathar defenders tried to stop them, but the Ilara guided the Resolve through a maze of laser fire. They reached the heart of the shipyard. It was a giant crystal sphere pulsing with energy. June now, Minsu yelled. June fired the ship's main cannon. The blast hit the crystal sphere. A crack appeared. Then another. The sphere began to break apart, its light fading. At that moment, a Cathar battleship appeared right in front of them. It was bigger than any they had seen. It was the flagship. Its weapons glowed, ready to fire. The Resolve was trapped. There was no way to escape. This was it. They had done their damage, but they would be destroyed. Then something incredible happened. The Cathar flagship did not fire. It just hung there, silent. A single wide-beam communication channel opened. It was not just for the Resolve. It was for every ship in the battle. The face that appeared on the screen was a Cathar, but this one looked different. Older. Its eyes held not anger, but a deep, weary sadness. Its voice when it spoke was the same crystal bell tone, but it was softer. "The dance is over," the Cathar said. "You have proven your point." The battle around them stopped. Every ship, human, Tolk, Alara, and Cathar, held their fire. The silence was absolute. "You fight not with order, but with spirit," the Cathar leader said. "You fight not for dominion, but for freedom. This is a variable we removed from our equations long ago. We thought it was a weakness. We see now, we may have been wrong." The Cathar leader looked directly at Minsu. "Your species is young. You are chaotic. You are dangerous. But you are also alive. In a way we have forgotten. You have reminded us of something we lost." The Cathar flagship slowly turned away from the Resolve. It faced its own fleet. "The right of integration is suspended," the leader said, its voice now carrying the weight of command. "All forces stand down. Return to consensus space." Then it looked back at Minsu. "We will talk, not as master and servant, but as potential neighbors. Send your diplomats." The communication ended. The Cathar fleet, including the massive flagship, began to retreat. They gathered their damaged ships and jumped away, leaving the broken shipyard and the stunned rebel fleet behind. On the bridge of the Resolve, no one spoke. They could not believe it. It was over. The war was over. Minsu looked at the view screen. He saw the Tolk ships, scarred but proud. He saw the Alara shimmering with what looked like joy. He saw the other alien ships all united. They had not won by destroying their enemy. They had won by reminding their enemy what it meant to be alive. He opened a channel to the entire fleet. "Today," he said, his voice quiet but clear, "we did not just win a battle. We did not just save our world. We changed the galaxy. Today we showed them that there is more than one way to be strong. Thank you, all of you." As the fleet began the long journey home, Minsu looked out at the stars. They looked different now. They were not just points of light anymore. They were possibilities. They were future friends. They were home to people who had chosen to stand with them. The galaxy was vast, and it was no longer silent. It was full of voices, and for the first time, humanity was not alone in the chorus. The meeting place was a neutral space station, built long ago by a species that was now gone. It hung in the empty space between stars, a silent monument. It was the perfect place for a new beginning. The station was a simple ring, rotating slowly. There were no weapons here. There were no flags. There was only a large round room in the center, with a window looking out at the galaxy. Captain Minsu, now called Ambassador Minsu, stood at that window. He wore a simple, dark uniform. There were no medals on it. Behind him stood Jun, now his chief advisor, and General Daehyun, who had come as the head of security. Daehyun did not like this. He did not trust the silence. They could be planning anything. Daehyun said, his voice low. "This could be a trick." "I don't think it is," Minsu said, watching the stars. "They could have destroyed us at the shipyard." "They didn't. They chose to talk," Jun nodded. "Their message, that geometric pattern they sent. I think I understand it now. It wasn't a lock or a key. It was a question. It was their way of asking, 'What are you?' We answered with the battle. We answered with our allies." A door on the other side of the room slid open. The Cathar arrived. There were 3 of them. They were tall and graceful, their bodies seeming to be made of light and polished crystal. The one in the center was the elder who had spoken to them at the shipyard. Its name was Aloran. The Cathar moved to the other side of the round room. There was no table. There was no throne. There was only the open space between them. Aloran bowed its head slightly, a gesture of respect, not submission. "Ambassador Minsu, we meet again." Minsu returned the bow. "Aloran, we are here to talk." "For 10,000 years, Aloran began, its voice like soft chimes. "The galactic consensus has stood for order. We found chaos to be inefficient. It led to war. It led to waste. We created a system of peace, but it was a peace without growth, a peace without surprise. New species were integrated to prevent their chaos from disturbing our order. We believed we were protecting the galaxy." It looked at Minsu, its luminous eyes seeming to see right through him. "You humans, you were an error in our calculations. You were more chaotic than any species we had ever encountered. You should have been eliminated. But you were also fascinating. You did not bow. You fought with nonsense. You fought with art. You fought with the help of others we had considered pacified. You showed us that our order was a cage. Aloran gestured to the window, to the vast expanse of stars. The Tolk have stopped work on 3 key worlds. The Alara are refusing to navigate for our military. The spark you lit has become a fire. We cannot put it out without destroying everything we have built. And we see now. Perhaps we should not, General Daehyun spoke, his voice hard. So you admit you were wrong? Aloran turned its gaze to the general. We admit that our path was not the only path. We are not here to surrender. We are here to reconsider. The celestial throne has stood for 100,000 years. It is the symbol of our power, but a throne is only for one to sit upon while all others kneel. Minsu understood. You are saying the old system cannot continue. It cannot, Aloran said. The galaxy has changed because of you. Then Minsu did something that surprised everyone. He walked to the center of the round room. He did not look at the Cathar as enemies. He looked at them as people who were lost. For us, a table is better than a throne, Minsu said. When we have important discussions on Earth, we sit around a table. Everyone is equal. Everyone can speak. No one has to bow. He looked at Aloran. The galaxy is big enough for both of us. It is big enough for your order and our chaos. Maybe together we can find a balance. We can build something new. Not an empire, a union. A true consensus. There was a long silence. The other Cathar looked at Aloran, waiting. The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance, not in a battle, but in a quiet room. Aloran looked from Minsu to Daehyun to June. It saw their determination, their hope, their weariness from the war. It saw their humanity. Finally, Aloran spoke. The celestial throne is a powerful symbol, it said, but you are correct. It is a symbol of division. Perhaps it is time for a new symbol. It made a motion with its hand. A hologram appeared in the center of the room. It was the image of the celestial throne, shining and majestic. Then with another motion, Aloran changed it. The throne dissolved into millions of tiny points of light. The points of light then swirled together, not forming a throne, but forming a large round table. A table made of starlight. A table, Aloran said, and for the first time its voice sounded like it held a hint of warmth. Where all may sit. Where all may speak. The meeting lasted for many hours. They did not create a new government that day. That would take years. But they created a promise. They created a new way. The old rite of integration was abolished. In its place would be an invitation to cooperate. When the meeting was over, the humans returned to their ship. General Daehyun was quiet for a long time as they flew back to Earth. I did not think it would end like this, he finally said, with words, not weapons. Some battles are won with weapons, Minsu said, looking at the peaceful blue planet growing on the screen. But the most important ones are won with ideas. Months later, the first true Galactic Council met. It was not in a grand palace. It was on the same neutral station. The room had been changed. In the center was a real physical table, built by the Tolk. It was a massive circle of polished stone and wood, with seats for many different kinds of beings. Minsu sat there, representing Earth. June sat beside him. Graal the Tolk was there, his large frame fitting perfectly in a sturdy chair. Lear the Alara hovered above a special seat, a shimmering light. And Aloran was there, representing the Cathar and the old consensus. They were not all friends. They did not all agree. There was arguing. There was compromise. There was confusion. It was messy. It was chaotic, but it was alive. As the meeting went on, Minsu looked around the table. He saw a Tolk and a Cathar discussing trade routes. He saw a human artist showing an Alara a new piece of music. He saw a galaxy that was no longer silent and orderly, but loud and colorful and full of possibility. They had not conquered the galaxy. They had not taken a throne. They had built a larger table, and for a species that had once been told to kneel, that was the greatest victory of all.